Chosen one, stop what you are doing right now and lock every part of your attention onto this message. That restless feeling pulling at you, the one that made you pause instead of keep scrolling, that was not impulse. That was instruction. The Most High is not sending you suggestions anymore. He is sending you final instructions. And the reason that word lands so heavy in your chest right now is because somewhere in your spirit, you already know this is different. You know this season is different. You know something has shifted in the atmosphere around your life, and you have been trying to put language to it for weeks. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. It has not just been busy or tired. It has been something deeper than that. Something that sits at the bottom of your chest and does not move. Maybe you found yourself standing in a room this week, completely forgetting why you walked in, and for just a second, a thought crossed your mind that said, "What am I even doing?" Or maybe you were lying in bed last night, fully exhausted but unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, replaying conversations, replaying decisions, replaying that one moment you keep returning to. Or perhaps it was quieter than that. Maybe you just went through the motions yesterday, smiled when you were supposed to smile, answered when you were supposed to answer, but inside you felt completely disconnected, like you were watching your own life from the outside. You feel like you are in a waiting room with no clock on the wall and no one calling your name. And in that waiting room, the enemy has been delivering a very specific message. He has been telling you that the reason the instructions have gone quiet is because God is done speaking to you. He has been replaying that moment from last week when you made the wrong choice, when you said the wrong thing, when you reacted instead of rested, when you gave up instead of held on. He has been using that moment as evidence. He has been building a case that says you have disqualified yourself, that the final chapter of your promise was closed the moment you failed. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Romans 11:29 says, "The gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable." Listen to what that word means. Irrevocable, not conditional, not paused, not suspended pending your performance. Irrevocable. The Most High does not take back what He has placed on your life because of a week that broke you. He does not reassign your promise because of a moment that weakened you. The enemy does not have the authority to revoke what God has sealed. You are not disqualified. You are being deployed. The silence you have been sitting in is not abandonment. It is the silence before a command is given, the kind of silence that falls over a room right before someone in authority walks in and everyone stops talking because they know something is about to be declared. That is the silence you have been sitting in. And here is what the enemy does not want you to understand. He is not attacking you this week because you are failing. He is attacking you this week because God has finalized something on your behalf, and He is trying to exhaust you before the delivery arrives. The intensity of the warfare you have been feeling is not proportional to your failure. It is proportional to the size of what has been assigned to your life. Think back to that moment this week when you almost reacted. When something happened that should have pulled a response out of you, and you made a choice, maybe barely, maybe by the thinnest thread, to stay quiet instead. You did not know it then, but that restraint was not weakness. That was the final act of obedience that moved something in the courts of heaven. That silence was not defeat. That silence was a weapon that the Most High used to close the case against you permanently. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was written into the architecture of this moment before you were born. You are standing at the edge of a threshold that you have been walking toward for years, and the reason it feels so heavy right now is not because you are far from the door. It is because you are standing directly in front of it. Do not click away. Your future self is not asking you to stay. Your future self is begging you, because if you leave before this message is complete, You may walk back out into the same fog you came in with, and this window does not open twice. Stay until the very last second, because in the next few minutes I am going to hand you the exact final instructions God has prepared for this season of your life. I am going to show you the precise moment this week where you unknowingly sealed your own breakthrough. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration, a spoken decree that locks this new chapter open and closes the door on every cycle, every pattern, and every lie that has been following you. The heaviness you feel right now is not punishment. It is not confusion. It is not a sign that you have been forgotten. It is the weight of finality pressing down on everything that was never meant to stay in your life. You are not starting over. You are finishing. What you've been carrying isn't confusion, my friend. It's clarity that hasn't been named yet, a nascent truth bubbling just beneath the surface of your awareness. It's like standing in a dense fog, feeling the landscape, but unable to define the contours, knowing there's a magnificent vista beyond the mist, just waiting for the first rays of dawn to burn through. And that's exactly what this moment is for, the breakthrough of light, the naming of what God has already made plain in your spirit. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, a whisper of recognition, a tremor of resonance, a deep knowing that this word is for you, then you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny, illuminating the hidden architecture of your spiritual journey. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb its profound truths during prayer, rest, or those quiet, intimate moments with God, allowing these revelations to seep into the very core of your being. And for those specifically called to speak His truth, to be a voice in the wilderness, to carry a message that shifts atmospheres and awakens dormant destinies, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook designed for those carrying a prophetic assignment, equipping you to walk in the fullness of that anointing. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper into what God is actually doing in this season of your life. The first profound truth you need to grasp, to truly integrate into the fabric of your understanding, is this: you have been calling yourself something God never called you. You have inadvertently, perhaps even unknowingly, been wearing a name that was handed to you in a season marked by profound pain, disappointment, or perceived failure. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible exchange, a spiritual transaction where, without fully realizing the weight of your consent, you agreed to it. You agreed to delayed, like a ship perpetually waiting at harbor while its destiny lies across the ocean. You agreed to almost, like an arrow that falls just inches short of the target, forever defining your effort by its near miss. You agreed to not quite yet, accepting a perpetual state of incompleteness as your default reality. And here's the insidious trap. Every time life, in its often cruel reflection, seemed to confirm that imposed label, you instinctively nodded, a familiar weariness settling over you, and you said, "Yes, that sounds about right. That's just my luck. That's just my story." But agreement, my friend, is not a passive acceptance. It is a spiritual transaction of immense power. It is a covenant, a quiet vow. When you agree with a lie long enough, when you allow its echo to reverberate through the chambers of your heart and mind, it ceases to feel like a falsehood. It morphs, transforms, and begins to feel like your immutable identity, like the very bedrock of who you are. And identity profoundly, fundamentally, shapes behavior. It dictates your choices, your reactions, your courage, or your retreat. Behavior, in turn, shapes outcomes, creating the very circumstances that then appear to validate the false identity. And these outcomes, these tangible results of a misaligned self-perception, become the evidence the enemy ruthlessly collects and uses to perpetuate this cycle, keeping you bound in a prison built by your own unwitting consent. This is precisely where the timeless narrative of Gideon transcends a mere Sunday school lesson and becomes a living, breathing blueprint for your own spiritual liberation. When the angel of the Lord, a messenger of divine power and presence, first appeared to Gideon, what was he doing? He wasn't leading an army. He wasn't standing on a battlefield. He was deep within the shadowed confines of a winepress, clandestinely threshing wheat, desperately trying to salvage a meager harvest in secret, because the terror of the Midianites held his entire people, and thus his very soul, in a chokehold of fear. He was crouched, hidden, diminutive in his own eyes, laboring under the cloak of apprehension. Yet the angel, seeing past the dust and the fear, seeing beyond the current circumstance and into the eternal truth of God's decree, looked at this man defined by his hiding, and declared with unshakable authority, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon's immediate visceral response was not one of overwhelming gratitude, not a gasp of awe or humble acceptance. No, it was an argument, a bitter lament born from deep-seated pain and disillusionment. He retorted, "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are all his wonders that our fathers told us about?" He was so profoundly entrenched within the label of his suffering, so blinded by the evidence of his present affliction, that he was utterly unable to receive, to even comprehend, the majestic identity that heaven was audaciously declaring over him. He had been anointed, called and appointed as mighty by the very voice of God, yet he was living, breathing, and moving as a man who had already accepted irrevocable defeat. And here lies the profound, often missed nuance in that powerful story. God did not first engage Gideon in a theological debate. He did not launch into an elaborate explanation of the spiritual warfare or offer a justification for the protracted delay of Israel's deliverance. No, he simply, powerfully and unequivocally called him what he already was in the Spirit, a truth established in the heavens long before Gideon could ever hope to perceive or manifest it in the natural realm. Heaven called him mighty while he was still cowering in the winepress, while the sweat of fear still beaded on his brow. And understand this with every fiber of your being, that divine perspective-shifting declaration, that audacious naming, is precisely what is happening to you right now, in this very moment. But let's go even deeper, plumbing the invisible currents that shape our lives. It's not merely the singular lie you have come to believe about yourself that holds you captive. It is the intricate, often invisible pattern that lie has meticulously woven into the fabric of your perception and reality. A lie, when planted deep enough into the fertile soil of your subconscious and watered by repeated agreement, becomes more than just a false statement. It transforms into a template. Imagine it as a corrupt filter, an outdated operating system through which every single experience you encounter is processed, interpreted, and assigned meaning. Every door that closes, whether divine redirection or circumstantial happenstance, is filtered through this template and becomes irrefutable proof of your inadequacy. Every relationship that fractures, every connection that dissolves, is immediately seized upon as confirmation of your unworthiness or your inherent flaw. Every instance where your diligent effort doesn't immediately yield the expected desired result, the insidious template whispers, "See, I told you so. You don't truly qualify. You're not enough." And the most perilous aspect of such a deeply embedded template is that it operates beneath the threshold of your conscious awareness. You are not actively, deliberately choosing to believe its tenets. You are simply living inside its constructed reality, and in doing so, it is subtly, yet powerfully, making choices on your behalf. It is the invisible hand that pulls you away from rooms you were destined to walk into, from conversations where your voice was meant to resound with authority, causing you to shrink, to recede, to dim your light. It is the internal censor that compels you to qualify your divine calling, to preface your God-given assignment with caveats and disclaimers before you even dare to open your mouth and declare the truth God has placed within you. This template subtly drains your courage, stifles your spontaneity, and keeps you dancing to a tune that was never meant for your destiny. And this profound insight leads us to confront something that many people are simply not yet ready to face, a truth that often remains hidden in the shadows of our lineage. The debilitating pattern, the spiritual template, did not originate with you. Its roots stretch far deeper than your individual experience. Somewhere in your ancestral lineage, a forefather or foremother, perhaps well-meaning, perhaps weary from their own battles, made an agreement with limitation. They looked at the vastness of what God had promised, at the audacious scope of divine potential, and in a moment of human frailty or perceived pragmatism, decided it was simply too much to believe for, too grand to truly manifest. Somewhere back through the generations, someone shrank back from the precipice of their own breakthrough, from the edge of what felt overwhelming or impossible. And that spiritual posture, that subtle retreat from the fullness of God's promise, that unspoken covenant with constraint, was inadvertently passed down like a weighty, unexamined family heirloom. It arrived in your spiritual inheritance, often cloaked in the guise of what looked like genuine humility, what was presented as practical wisdom, or what felt like simply being realistic in a harsh world. But beneath these seemingly virtuous wrappers, it was in truth a generational ceiling, an invisible but profoundly tangible barrier that has limited the ascent of your family line. And for your entire life, without ever fully comprehending its presence, you have been bumping your head, repeatedly and painfully, against this unseen barrier, wondering why you couldn't rise higher, why certain achievements always seemed just out of reach, why the air thinned when you neared the threshold of your greatest potential. Identifying this ceiling is the crucial first step to dismantling it, to breaking free from an inheritance of limitation. Stay with me, lean in closer, because what I am about to share next is not just another piece of the puzzle. It is the seismic shift, the profound revelation, the very pivot point that breaks the cycle entirely, liberating you to fully step into the expansive destiny God has ordained. Now, once you have peeled back the layers of deception, once you profoundly understand the insidious nature of the lie-fueled pattern and trace its origins, perhaps even acknowledging its generational roots, you are spiritually primed and ready for the next crucial piece of wisdom. You must learn, with a deep and discerning heart, the profound difference between simply waiting and God's purposeful withholding. Most people, finding themselves in a season that mirrors yours, a season characterized by a seeming lack of visible movement, an absence of tangible progress, often fall into the trap of assuming that because nothing is visibly moving, God has somehow gone silent, has retreated, or perhaps even forgotten them. They interpret stillness as absence. But here is a profound spiritual truth. What appears as stillness on the surface, what feels like an empty void, is almost never true stillness underneath. Consider for a moment the foundational narrative of creation itself. Genesis 1:2 paints a picture of primal quietude. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Hovering, not absent, not disinterested, not distracted by other galaxies or grander designs, hovering. This singular word, this divine posture, is the very essence of God's active, intentional presence in a season that, to our limited human perception, looks as if absolutely nothing is happening. He is not gone. He is intimately present. He is not disengaged. He is strategically positioned. He is hovering with potent creative energy and focused intent over the very raw material of your life, over the very thing He is imminently about to speak into glorious being. And understand this deep in your spirit. What He is poised to speak into being in your life, the manifestation of your destiny, has been in meticulous, divine preparation long before you ever began to utter a single prayer for it. His blueprint was established before your request was ever conceived. Therefore, the withholding you have experienced is never punishment. It is, in its purest form, profound protection and strategic preparation. Imagine it this way. If the door to your grandest desire, to the full manifestation of your promise, had swung wide open 6 months, a year, or even 5 years ago, you would have undoubtedly walked into that sacred space, into that promised land, carrying an unexamined weight of unhealed trauma, unaddressed character flaws, unrefined skills, or unexamined identities. That unchecked spiritual baggage, that premature entry, would have inevitably caused the very foundation of the promise to collapse, unable to sustain the weight. God does not delay your destiny, not for one solitary moment, because He has forgotten about you, or because He is indifferent to your longing. No, He delays the final delivery, the grand unveiling, because He is still actively and intimately preparing the container, and that container, my beloved friend, is you. You are the sacred vessel, the chosen conduit through which His glory will flow. And those last several months, that period of apparent dormancy, of what felt like wasted time, of profound discouragement and frustration, has not been wasted at all. In fact, they have been the most pivotal, the most crucial, and the most important months of your divine formation, even though they tasted like ashes and felt like a relentless spiritual drought. It was in this crucible that your spirit was strengthened, your character refined, your capacity expanded, and your foundations secured, making you finally ready to hold the magnificent overflow of His appointed blessing. But now, we must address a truth that often feels uncomfortable, a part that no one truly wants to hear, precisely because it places responsibility directly at our feet. Some significant portion of what has been extending this prolonged season of waiting, of what feels like a spiritual holding pattern, is not attributable to the external machinations of the enemy, nor is it solely the inscrutable mystery of God's perfect timing. No, some of it is a subtle yet deeply impactful habit you have been quietly feeding in the private chambers of your own heart and mind, a habit that has been subtly, almost imperceptibly, yet effectively, draining the very momentum, the very spiritual force that your imminent breakthrough absolutely requires. This is not about a grand moral failure, nor a public scandalous sin. It is something far more insidious, far more subtle than that. It is the persistent, self-sabotaging habit of going back. Going back to the agonizing, replayed conversation in your head that relentlessly reopens the very wound God is actively trying to heal. Going back to the social media page that serves as a constant, bitter reminder of everything you perceive you don't have yet, everything that feels elusive in your life. Going back to the person, the relationship, the dynamic that consistently diminished you, undervalued you, or even outright rejected you, clinging to a desperate, irrational hope that this time, just this once, they will finally see your worth, finally validate you. Going back to the relentless cataloging of the evidence of your past failures, your disappointments, your hurts, as if reviewing them long enough, replaying the highlight reel of pain, will somehow retroactively change what has already transpired. Every single time you go back, every instance you indulge in this backward-looking pattern, you are actively pulling precious spiritual energy, vital life force, and essential focus away from the forward momentum God is desperately trying to initiate in your life. And the enemy, the spiritual adversary, understands this profound principle perfectly. He rarely needs a dramatic head-on attack, a grand theatrical assault. He just needs to keep your eyes fixed firmly in the rearview mirror, to keep you looking backward, to keep you locked in a cycle of nostalgic pain or regret, long enough that the appointed moment of your breakthrough, the divine window of opportunity, quietly passes by while your gaze is fixed in the wrong direction, missing the open door directly in front of you. Coming up next, we will unveil the hidden root beneath all of this, the surprising, unexpected core truth that once recognized will shatter the remaining chains. Stay with me, for this is a revelation you cannot afford to miss. This brings us, with divine precision, to the real turning point, the spiritual fulcrum upon which everything in your life is about to pivot. And I need you, with every fiber of your being, to receive this truth carefully, to let it permeate your deepest consciousness. The singular, transformative discipline that utterly changes everything in a season like this, in a period of preparation and poised acceleration, is not merely more prayer, though prayer is undeniably essential and holds immeasurable power. It is not solely more fasting, though fasting has its irreplaceable place in spiritual consecration and breakthrough. No, the discipline that changes everything, that unlocks the floodgates of your destiny in this pivotal moment, is the profound practice of prophetic imagination. Prophetic imagination is not mere wishful thinking or idle daydreaming. It is a God-given, spirit-empowered ability to hold the vivid, unshakable image of your divine promise, of God's declared future for you, in your spirit, with the same tangible vividness, the same unassailable authority, and the same unyielding certainty, as if it has already been triumphantly fulfilled. Remember the powerful declaration in Hebrews 11:1, which states that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Substance, evidence. These are not passive, ethereal words meant for poetic interpretation. These are precise, weighty, legal terms pulled directly from the lexicon of heavenly jurisprudence. Faith is not a blind leap. It is not simply hoping for the best. Faith, in its divine essence, is the powerful act of presenting irrefutable spiritual evidence in the high court of heaven, testifying to what God has already, irrevocably, declared to be true about your life, your calling, and your destiny, long before it manifests in the physical realm. And when you begin, with intentionality and consistent practice, to truly see yourself, not through the distorting lens of your past failures or present limitations, but through the pure, unfiltered, victorious eyes of heaven, not with human arrogance, not with self-aggrandizing presumption, but with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who has already, by divine grace, read the glorious end of their own story. The very atmosphere around you, the spiritual energetic field surrounding your being, begins to fundamentally shift, recalibrate, and align itself with the truth you are embodying. But let's delve even deeper into the nuanced power of this practice. Most individuals, in their earnest desire to apply prophetic imagination, inadvertently approach it the wrong way, focusing on a partial truth. They predominantly imagine the outcome, the tangible manifestations of the blessing. They visualize the platform, the restoration of what was lost, the open door to opportunity, the abundance they desire. And there is absolutely nothing inherently wrong with holding these images in your mind. They are often healthy expressions of hope and desire. However, the most potent, the most transformative, and ultimately the most powerful form of prophetic imagination is not merely imagining the destination, the external results. No, it is the profound practice of imagining the version of yourself, that is already living there, already thriving in that fulfilled reality, already walking in the anointing and authority of that promise. What does that person, that future fulfilled you, think like? What internal narratives do they entertain, and which ones have they decisively silenced? How do they respond to opposition, to setbacks, to the inevitable resistance that comes with greatness? What trivial arguments, what petty grievances, what emotional entanglements do they now refuse to even entertain, understanding their higher purpose? What approvals, what validations from external sources do they no longer desperately need or seek, having found their complete affirmation in Christ? How do they carry themselves in a room full of people who once doubted them, who dismissed their vision, who scoffed at their dreams? Is it with vindictive pride or with quiet, dignified grace? Because the profound truth is this: the very moment you begin, with spiritual intentionality, to embody that higher version of yourself, to think, speak, and act from that place of fulfilled identity, the external world, the matrix of your physical reality, has no other choice but to begin rearranging itself, recalibrating its circumstances, and aligning its opportunities around your new, unshakable internal reality. This is the law of spiritual attraction, a divine magnetism activated by your alignment with God's truth. Now, and this is a critical truth that often catches many off guard, there is a distinct shift, a new dynamic that invariably accompanies acceleration, a divine momentum that most people are simply not spiritually prepared for. When God begins to move quickly, to orchestrate rapid shifts and breakthroughs in your life, and it will feel incredibly quick, almost dizzying, precisely because the build-up, the season of apparent dormancy, has been so profoundly long. The enemy, ever cunning and strategic, will fundamentally shift his strategies. He won't waste his dwindling resources attacking you where you've always been weak, where your familiar vulnerabilities lie. He has already tried those tactics, and God has already fortified those areas through your testing. Instead, he will pivot, turning his attention to attack you precisely where you are becoming strong, where your anointing is deepening, where your gifts are emerging with power. He will come at your burgeoning gifts, attempting to corrupt them, to misuse them, or to tempt you into premature expression. He will send masterfully crafted counterfeit relationships, connections that glitter and gleam, appearing strikingly similar to divine alignments, but which are in reality subtly designed to ensnare you, to entangle your sacred assignment, to divert you from your true path through emotional attachment or misplaced loyalty. He will strategically offer you a smaller, more immediate, seemingly reasonable version of the promise, a well-disguised decoy, just to entice you to settle, to abandon the pursuit of the glorious fullness that is already on its way. Consider the poignant biblical narrative of Esau. He did not lose his precious birthright, an inheritance of immense spiritual and material significance, in a moment of extraordinary moral weakness or through a grand, public, catastrophic failure. He lost it in a moment of ordinary, relatable hunger, a fleeting physical craving for a bowl of lentil stew. The enemy rarely destroys profound destinies through spectacular, cataclysmic failures. More often, he destroys them through insidious convenience, through the subtle lure of what feels immediately reasonable, through the readily available offer that seems good enough when you have been spiritually hungry, weary, and waiting long enough. Beware the trap of the good that is the enemy of the best. And this insight compels us to delve into something I need you to truly sit with, to allow its weight and wisdom to settle deep within your spirit. There exists a crucial, life-altering difference between the authentic, resonant voice of God, pure, peaceful, and patient, and the clamoring voice of desperation, cleverly wearing the sacred clothes of faith, mimicking its language and appearance. Desperation, masquerading as spiritual conviction, often whispers or shouts, "This must be it. This open door, this opportunity, this person, this is the breakthrough. It has to be, because I've been waiting for so incredibly long. I can't wait any longer." This voice is often characterized by urgency, by a frantic energy, by a compelling need to fill the void of prolonged expectation. But genuine discernment, the spiritual faculty sharpened by intimacy with God, pauses, breathes, and declares, "Let me test this. Let me hold this up against the established spirit of what God has definitively spoken over my life. Does this align with His revealed character, His previous promises, His quiet peace?" For the profound truth is this: not every open door that appears before you, regardless of its seeming allure or timeliness, is a divine invitation from the Father. Some open doors, meticulously crafted by the adversary, are cunning traps set in a corridor that, though it may initially seem promising, ultimately leads you directly away from your sacred assignment, away from your true north. And the definitive way you learn to tell the difference, the infallible compass in this spiritual wilderness, is not by the external appearance of the door, not by its size, its shine, or the opportunities it seems to offer. No, it is discerned by what profoundly happens in your spirit, in the deepest sanctuary of your being, when you stand directly in front of it, when you feel its presence. Does the profound, unshakable peace of God, the shalom that transcends all earthly understanding, rise up within you, affirming and comforting? Or does something quiet, something intrinsically knowing, something deep in your gut, subtly pull back, a gentle but firm warning? Because your spirit, connected intimately to the Spirit of God, has been given an innate, undeniable capacity to discern truths that your logical mind cannot always fully explain or rationalize. Start trusting that subtle pull, that inner knowing, that spiritual intuition. Stop overriding it, silencing it, or dismissing it with the often limited logic of your fearful or impatient mind. Your spirit is your divine compass. Now, here is where the real confrontation truly begins, where we pull back the final veil and step into the most challenging, yet ultimately most liberating truth. Because everything I have shared with you thus far, every insight, every revelation about false identities, generational patterns, God's timing, the enemy's strategies, and prophetic imagination, has been profoundly true, undeniably necessary. And I believe with every fiber of my being, it has landed exactly where it was meant to in the fertile soil of your spirit. But there is one more layer, one final luminous truth that often remains unspoken, unacknowledged, and unconfronted. And this, my friend, is the layer that changes absolutely everything. This is the truth most people never fully reach, precisely because they stop just short of it, retreating at the threshold of their own grandeur. The thing that has been blocking you the longest, the deepest impediment to your full breakthrough, is not ultimately the enemy with all his wiles. It is not solely the scars of your past, though those have their own healing journey. It is not the people who hurt you, nor the systems that worked relentlessly against you, nor even the divine timing that you have been so patiently or impatiently waiting for. No, the thing that has been blocking you the longest, with a silent, relentless force, is your own complicated, often warring relationship with your own greatness. You have been, perhaps unconsciously, perhaps for noble-sounding reasons, at war with the sheer, magnificent size of what God has placed inside of you. There is a deep-seated part of you that genuinely believes that wanting it, that grand vision, that audacious calling, that profound impact, that wanting it that much is a form of spiritual arrogance, a dangerous pride. A part of you whispers that believing for that level of influence, that scope of blessing, that depth of transformation, means you must think too highly of yourself, that you are somehow overstepping. And so, with a quiet, unconscious, yet remarkably consistent and faithful effort, you have been diligently, almost religiously, shrinking the divine promise down to a size that feels more comfortable, more digestible, more spiritually appropriate in your own eyes and in the eyes of others. You have been meticulously making the vision smaller, paring it down so that it doesn't make anyone around you uncomfortable. You've trimmed its edges so that it doesn't demand too much of the people in your immediate circle, so that it doesn't challenge their perceived limitations. You've compressed it, constrained it, so that it perfectly fits inside the neatly defined, often restrictive ceiling of what your community, your family, or even your religious tradition has collectively decided is realistic or humble. But let me declare this with the unshakable truth of heaven. Humility was never, ever meant to be the adversary of vision. Authentic humility is not, and has never been, the practice of making yourself small, of diminishing the divine spark within you, or of shrinking the magnificent destiny God has breathed into your spirit. True humility, in its purest, most powerful form, is the profound act of surrendering fully and completely to the majestic, awe-inspiring size of what God Himself has irrevocably placed within you. It is embracing that divine mandate, that colossal calling, even when it frightens you to your core, even when it isolates you from those who cannot comprehend its magnitude, even when no one around you has the language, the framework, or the spiritual capacity to understand the immense weight and glory of what you are carrying. Consider Moses standing before the burning bush, consumed by an internal battle. He didn't argue with God, offering a litany of excuses. Who am I? I am slow of speech. What if they don't believe me? Because he was genuinely humble. He argued because he had spent 40 long, isolated years in the desert, systematically convincing himself that who he used to be, a hot-headed murderer, a failed deliverer, a forgotten prince, was irrefutable evidence of who he could never become. His arguments were rooted in self-condemnation and a profound misunderstanding of God's redemptive power, not in true humility. And God, in His infinite wisdom and sovereign authority, looked directly at Moses' self-limiting arguments, at his profound self-doubt, and declared the eternal, unyielding truth. I am that I am. I am not limited by your past history, your perceived failures, or your present insecurities. I am not governed by your human logic or your self-imposed limitations. I have seen you. I have chosen you. I have called you. Now go. That, my beloved friend, is the resounding, unyielding declaration God is speaking directly to you in this very moment, piercing through every layer of self-doubt and fear. He is not asking you to intellectually figure it all out, to meticulously chart every single step of the journey. He is not patiently waiting for you to miraculously get stronger, to become more perfectly prepared, or to suddenly, magically, become less afraid of the unknown. No. With the full weight of His divine authority and unwavering love, He is simply saying, go. Not because you have finally reached some mystical threshold of readiness, not because you feel perfectly equipped or absolutely fearless, but because He is sending you, and the very act of His sending, His divine commission, carries within it all the readiness, all the strength, and all the courage you will ever need. His calling is your qualification. His deployment is your empowerment. And here is the final, unexpected, paradigm-shifting truth, the thing that reframes everything you have just received, tying it all together into a powerful, liberating crescendo. The breakthrough you have been tirelessly praying for, the promise you have clung to with fervent hope, is not some elusive entity vaguely coming to find you, needing to locate your position on the map of life. No, the breakthrough you have sought has already been released from the throne room of heaven. It has already been ordained, set in motion, and is actively, powerfully, energetically moving toward you, a divine current flowing inevitably in your direction. The only remaining question, the singular determinant of its arrival, is whether you will steadfastly hold your spiritual position long enough in unwavering faith and patient obedience to fully receive it, or whether in the final exhilarating stretch you will succumb to impatience, to fear, to the temptation to help God deliver it, thereby moving yourself out of perfect alignment with its path. Most breakthroughs, tragically, are not missed because individuals give up entirely, abandoning their faith. They are missed, heartbreakingly, because in that crucial final moment, when the spiritual current is strongest, when the promise is closest, people try to take over. They attempt to open the door themselves, to force the timing, to manufacture what only the masterful orchestration of God can truly bring forth. And in that act of premature intervention, that desperate grasp for control, they unwittingly step out of the precise path of what was already, with divine certainty, on its way to them. Therefore, beloved, stay in your position. Hold fast to your unwavering obedience, even when the path is unclear. Remain rooted in your unshakable faith, even when every external circumstance screams otherwise. The delivery of your breakthrough, the manifestation of your long-awaited promise, is closer than it has ever been. Now I invite you to place your hand firmly on your heart, grounding yourself in the truth of this moment, and declare this sacred truth with me, allowing each word to resonate with power and conviction, sealing it into the depths of your being. I release every single label, every limiting identifier that was placed upon me by a season that is now irrevocably over and concluded. I decisively break agreement with every lie, every subtle deception, every insidious untruth that has covertly governed my decisions, my perceptions, and my actions without my conscious consent, holding me captive in an unseen prison. I vehemently reject the generational ceiling, the inherited limitation that was handed to me under the guise of wisdom, of realism, of humility, and I unequivocally call it what it truly is, a limitation that was never, ever mine to carry, a burden not forged by God for my spirit. I declare with divine authority that the magnificent gifts and the undeniable calling on my life are irrevocable, unchangeable, and eternally sealed by the hand of God Himself. I declare that the silence I have been sitting in, the profound stillness that often felt like abandonment, was not a sign of His absence, but rather an essential deep season of preparation, of formation, of incubation for greater things. I declare that I am not disqualified by my past. I am not irrevocably delayed by any perceived failure. I am not, and will never be, forgotten by my Creator. I am finishing what God started in me. I boldly step forward, with courage and conviction, into the full, abundant, expansive manifestation of what God has already, from eternity, released on my behalf. I will not shrink the grand vision He has given me to make it comfortable for myself or for anyone else. I will not settle for the early offer, the mere fragment of a promise, when the glorious fullness is already, unequivocally, on its way to me. I trust the quiet, discerning pull of my spirit, guided by the Holy Spirit, over the frantic, often fearful logic of my human mind. I am chosen, I am deployed, I am empowered, and what God has sealed over my life, what He has ordained for my destiny, no force on earth, nor any power beneath it, has the authority to revoke or obstruct. This new, glorious chapter of my life is open. It is here, and it is now. And I walk into it now, not when I feel perfectly ready, not when all my fears have vanished, but precisely because I have been called by the living God. And that, in and of itself, is more than enough. It is done. Now go live like it is.